We're live here from the Centennial Plaza talking Hall of Fame with this guy. Let's get right into it here on the show, baby. Here we go. Roll the... Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans. Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show. Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby. For me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever seen.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Oh yeah, baby. Here we are live from the Hall of Fame Centennial Plaza. Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. And look at this. You guys may not be able to see it on camera, but I am standing full straight. He's sitting down, and look at what's going on here. It's absolutely beautiful. Matt gosh darn O'Leary, you're actually here, human person. This is happening. Matt, this is awesome. We've been planning this for months, and now we're finally here, man.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I thought this weekend lived up to the expectations and then some. It was so much fun hanging out with you and doing content with you the last few days and watching some football. And we got some guys going to the Hall of Fame today. Good day, good weekend all around.
Yeah, let's try to piecemeal it a little bit and go through some of the stuff. Let's start with today. We're recording this, obviously, live here on Hall of Fame Enshrinement Day. Joe Klecko goes in. Darrelle Revis goes in. Klecko first. And, obviously Klecko is the one, and I think I could speak for all of us. We have a Jake Aspen off screen, and then there's us here, that, Joe Klecko, we didn't get to enjoy that era. I'm a film watcher. I got the New York Jets history DVD. I'm taking a gander. I'm looking, but you don't truly appreciate it. You don't truly get to embrace it. So it's really cool to get that at the same time as Revis. But Joe Klecko getting in after 30 years, I wasn't sure it was ever going to happen.
Yeah, this was long overdue. This was something that should have happened a long, long time ago. And as you said, I'm not old enough to have seen him play, but you watch all the old highlights, you see all the old games, and for him to be a Pro Bowler at 3 different positions is really, really impressive. The guy is an absolute stud. And as we said, long overdue, and I'm happy that he was able to go in.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this on other shows. It's just a random rant on the box here. But even if I were standing on the soapbox, I still don't believe I would meet your height there, Mr. Matt O'Leary. But nonetheless, one of the things that really gets me is when Hall of Famers are inducted after they've passed. That's one of the things that's always got me, historically speaking. There's been a few, unfortunately, over the years. So they die, and they're like, oh, wow, we should probably get that guy in. I'm just so blessed and fortunate because Joe Klecko, obviously, turning 70 later this year. Tomorrow's not promised. I'm so glad that he got this moment in the sun. Well-deserved. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there, unfortunately, were a couple people today who they had representation, family members there, accept the honor. And, as you said, it's great that Joe was able to, even though it was so late, 30 years after he's finished playing, he's still able to be there and have his day. And, how awesome for us Jet fans. Selfishly, you have 2 guys go in.
Yeah, and that's kind of random luck of the draw, obviously. When Revis decided to stop, for those who don't know, it's 5 years after your playing career. And Joe Klecko, it's 35 years after his playing career because you have to still wait the 5 years that we were just mentioned, and then he needed the help of the senior committee. So the football gods were shining upon us, which hopefully is a good sign for the season to come here, which, again, we're certainly praying for. Now, I'm a guy, and Matt, I'm learning more about you. You have your lovely lady here as well. I'm learning a little bit more about you. For me, I like to play in the comedy pool. So when people are doing their speeches, I want to get a good laugh. That's when I know you kind of got in a good balance. So Joe Klecko, I was up in the press box for the event. Joe Klecko, during his speech, one of the things he brought up was, I wish I could be playing the game right now. And for a moment, I get up in my seat. I'm like, you know what? I kind of rise up a little bit. I'm like, yeah, baby, because he wants to play with Quinnen. He wants to play with Aaron Rodgers. And he goes, no, it's not for the competitive reasons. It's because of the money. And he drops this great line of Aaron Donald being the highest paid right now at $30+ million. He was highest paid at one time, but obviously nowhere near close. That to me, I love the comedy in it, and wow, what a great moment. That was kind of a home run there for me.
He was funny. He was very, very entertaining. He let his personality shine through, which I think was great. Like, he was joking with his kids. It was like, oh, this one's my favorite. Like, it's just, I thought he had a really good personality. And you're right, it was like 700,000 versus 31.7 million. It's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's the one I want to get to. That I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, his son Dan, for those who don't know, he was obviously a lesser-known player. He won 3 Super Bowl championships, mostly as a reserve, kind of bouncing around the league a little bit. And apparently his son Dan has been rubbing it in Dad's face. Hey, Joe, who obviously did not win a Super Bowl championship during his career, look at these, buddy. Kiss the rings, pal. And then apparently Joe on stage, one of the things he did was like, hey, look at this Hall of Fame ring, sucker. Get one of these. It was great Klecko on Klecko crime. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, you could tell. I'm sure there was many competitive nights in that house. I don't think Monopoly was very friendly in that house.
No, I do not believe so. And something else that wasn't friendly, great segue. And again, we have Jake Asman off screen. We'll have him slide in before it's over. Again, Jake Asman was, and I don't want to say puppet master because, again, that sounds like he intended to do this. He did that, but he was the receptacle for all of this weird, what the hell, Klecko Revis aren't cool? What's going on here? What's happening here? And I love the vibes that it, ultimately, when we got here, it's a little concerned. I'm like, well, that's going to be weird. They're taking photo ops together. They're doing Hall of Fame things together. Like, come on, man. The one time we get 2 guys in, we get some weird beef that makes absolutely no sense. So the good thing for me was the positive vibes. They're all cool. And that made us be able to appreciate this weekend even more.
Yeah, 100%. It was something that I was nervous about with that. It was such a huge story, and it all happened on Jake's show. And don't sell yourself short. It wasn't in your clip of the tweet that made it go viral. I don't know. I don't want to leave you out of this story.
Of course it was, obviously. If I didn't do it, none of this happens. But thank you for bringing that up, Matt. Yeah. We'll send you that royalty check after the show. Yeah.
So it's all your fault.
Yes. Yeah, that's ultimately where it goes. Yeah, that's ultimately where it sits. Yeah.
That is quite A-okay, because they ironed it out. It's
right.
Okay. We don't have to throw you under the bus.
I appreciate that.
But it was it was great to see them both out there. Supposedly they hugged it out. Everything's good, which is most important through all this.
Yeah, and then obviously I want to get Revis in here, first ballot Hall of Famer, which to me I always consider. I'm a big football fan. Obviously Jets is our cup of tea, but football in general. So when you get in first ballot, that means something special. So shout out to Darrelle. And again, the same thing. I was a little not sure how Revis was he going to give this special shout out to the fans during the speech, because again it had gotten a little weird lately with Jet fans bringing up the Patriots thing, but we almost got it pregame because Chris Berman did a mini intro for all these guys. They played a video package. The presenter came up. So there's some layers to some of this Hall of Fame business. And Chris Berman was kind of recapping the career. He said, and Darrelle Revis played a year at the Patriots, won a Super Bowl, and the voracious, boo, terrible. And Chris Berman just laughs and goes, hey, it happened, man. I don't know what to tell you. That to me was spectacular because when Revis ended up coming up, he said, shout out to you guys that burned my jerseys after my Patriots trip. Again, for me, obviously, I wish he never went to the New England Patriots. But again, for him to get whatever that missing piece of the resume is of getting that Super Bowl, I'm happy for Revis. He gave a great special shout out to the fans, called them the best fans in the world. And then when they immediately reciprocated back with jet chants and stuff, he said he felt like he was back at MetLife Stadium again. So all full circle stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it was, a bumpy ride with Darrelle. There's a lot of highs and then some unfortunate lows, and he leaves and wins the Super Bowl somewhere else. But I think he will always have a special place in the fans' hearts. And, for Jet fans of our generation, like, that's our guy. Like, our fathers and grandfathers, they grew up in the Joe Klecko or Joe Namath era. The Darrelle Revis era is pretty much all we have. That's the highlight of 2009 and 2010. Hopefully Sauce and Garrett Wilson and Quinnen, they give us a little bit of a new run here. But, yeah, I'm so excited for someone who I watch. I remember where I was when he was drafted by the Jets, watched his entire career, and truly a special day.
Yeah, because for us, to your point, there hasn't been a lot of Jets we've witnessed. We watched drafted, go through the entire career, or come back around and then be able to retire. Obviously, it's unique with Revis, and because of our ages that, all of that happened very quickly. First ballot Hall of Famer that couldn't. So hopefully many more to come. I saw Sauce was posing at the Hall of Fame, putting his head next to this one next. Maybe. I don't know. But a better year than Revis first year. We'll see if it continues from that standpoint. And we obviously had the Hall of Fame game. So That's nice, but I kind of want to turn the page forward and start looking forward to next week. We have the joint practices for the first time with the Carolina Panthers, and I want to ask you specifically about Robert Saleh, who's been dropping a lot of breadcrumbs. I'm not saying he's Hansel and Gretel out there, but I mean, he's made it pretty clear with saying but not saying that basically his starters and Aaron Rodgers and select veterans are not going to play at all during the preseason. And in particular, if it happens, maybe, you got to give me one of those commitments. Have you ever ordered pizza and you got a bunch of people and then you say, hey, who's in? And someone goes, well, I want a slice. Well, a slice? I don't want to buy an entire pizza if you're only going to get a slice. So that's what it kind of felt like from the commitment standpoint. He said that Giants game, maybe they'll play, but I really like the joint practice stuff. It sounds like they're really not going to play. Do you agree with that decision or are you against it?
I'm kind of with it because I just have this terrible fear of something catastrophic happening, like in the Hall of Fame game, for example, because the Jets have such good depth on the defensive line. Will McDonald and Bryce Huff were playing well into the fourth quarter.
Yes.
And I'm sitting next to my girlfriend and I'm saying we got to get these guys out of the game. I can't get these guys hurt in the fourth quarter of a meaningless preseason game. And the guy, I was sitting next to a Browns fan, and he was like, "Are they important to your team?" I'm like, well, you see, like they're really rotational pass rushers, but like kind of yes. Like, it's hard to explain, but yeah, I'm nervous with the injuries, Paul.
Yeah, and how could you not be? Again, I heard it a little bit earlier, I'm sure, on the Jake Asman show about the Aaron Rodgers toe stepping. We all have these because, you know, for a lot of us, sometimes we get an opportunity. There's the Jets media and some of the other people in our YouTube community that get opportunities to go to some of these Jets practices. So you can see it firsthand. But a lot of the time we're Twitter watching. We're absorbing that information on our thing. So when you see Aaron Rodgers, like, oh, my God, back during the OTAs when Diana Rossi says, oh, boy, looks bad, heavy limp, immediate address by medical staff. I'm like, oh, my God, what happened? He died on the football field. So sometimes we have to take that with bated breath, but we had that earlier today. Again, after recording this, Jets Hall of Fame, we're all here for that. But there's practice happening back in New Jersey, and that's scary. That, to me, I already wanted to bubble wrap his ass. Now a double bubble wrap his ass. I don't want no China breaking on the shipping. You know what I mean? So I feel like we got to cut the line skinny there. And again, if injuries happen during the season, then okay, well, it's going to happen. So ultimately, we circle back around. Going back to joint practices, are you expecting a little bit of juice? Now, the teams are somewhat random. It's not like you have the Giants joint practice where there was some heat last year. It's the Carolina Panthers and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Panthers first, Bucs the following week. What are you looking forward to in some of those joint practices? Because, again, according to Saleh, that's basically going to be our version of the preseason.
Yeah, you know, a lot of coaches feel that way, that they get more out of the joint practices. And, you know, like going up against the same guys every day in practice, like there's a benefit in that. And obviously everyone's favorite quote, right? Iron sharpens iron. Garrett Wilson.
Connor Hughes, there you go. There you go.
Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. But going up against other teams and just, I don't know. It's just a different feel, and like that matters. So I think they'll be able to get some use out of it. But I don't know. A game when the lights go on and it's an actual game, I feel like that's different even than a joint practice too.
Oh, I do too. Again, I love the preseason no matter. Again, obviously, we're just at the Hall of Fame game, and there were select starters not playing. But for me, I'm rooting. It's the Hard Knock stories, which, by the way, that'll start next week. We could get a little love on that in a few minutes. But you know, those guys fighting for roster spots. There are players that played in that Hall of Fame game that are never going to play football again. They may get cut before the next game coming up. So to me, there's something as a longtime former football player, not college, nothing crazy. But when I was there, I just kind of like a silent little fist bump for some of those guys. Good injury news, it sounds like. Garrett Wilson earlier today, again, still not practicing, doing some individual stuff. But Robert Saleh seemed to indicate that he'll be limited back on Tuesday, and their hope is full participation for those joint practices. So another bullet dodge potentially there with G-Dub.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that they're taking it slow. There's no reason to rush him back and potentially risk worse injury. Like, there's no point. They're still so far out from the regular season. I think this is the right decision. And getting him back at any point before the season started is a win. So take their time, make sure he's all good 100%, and then he can come back.
Again, we're live right freaking now from the Hall of Fame. You see that beautiful look? Boop, boop, boop. You see that up there? Look at that. We got Matt O'Leary. We got boy gosh darn green here, baby. It is spicy. And we're enjoying our time here in the state of Ohio. There's no question about it. And, Matt, I do want to go back to this because you mentioned, you know, they're taking it slow. And you know, you're right. I don't want to see, you know, Garrett Wilson being rushed back out there. But Dwayne Brown, what the hell? Saleh earlier today says when he's asked about Dwayne Brown, naturally, like where the hell's that bastard? He's been doing some off side work, but like, what's he doing? He's like, a couple of weeks. I'm like, okay, a couple of weeks. I'm looking at the calendar, man. We just had the Hall of Fame game on Thursday the 3rd. So what's today? I don't even know the math of that. 5th, 6th, wherever the hell we are. Like a couple weeks, we got the season. Like, man, I'm getting a little concerned about this. It seems like someone's saying, hey, he's a veteran. We can just kind of plug him in there. He doesn't need to practice, but it seems easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he'll need a massive ramp-up period, but still a little nervous, right, that he's not in the mix and at least practicing at the – like, is he going to put the pads on September 10th and it'd just be good to go? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, because you said it to me, because, again, I was kind of coming in and out with the Hall of Fame stuff. I think you told me the starting tackles again today were Billy Turner and Max Mitchell. I get it. It's, again, whatever August date it is today, the 6th, I believe, But, like, still seeing those on the field, how can you not go, ugh, cringe a little, put the hands up and kind of peek through? Like, that's still, even though, again, we have Mekhi's coming back, we'll get to him. We have Dwayne in theory, but those guys aren't on the field right now, so those are the stars, and that's scary as hell.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's a little sketch. It's definitely a little sketchy with those two guys, but you would hope, number one, that Dwayne Brown at some point comes back, and you assume that he's just going to be plug and play at left tackle, and then maybe Mekhi Becton gets back into the mix, but as we were saying, he only played like 7 snaps.
Yeah, and going back, I love on Jake Asman's show, you were talking about how impressive you saw from your vantage point that Mekhi looked in the very limited amount of snaps, 7 snaps. But again, I heard everything with the turf questions and stuff like that, why you didn't want to go on. But okay, I still go back to the same thing I just said about Dwayne. He only played 7 snaps. We only have 3 more preseason games. It just feels like time is against the young man. That I'm rooting for Mekhi. I want him in there. I think healthy and everything else, which a big if, of course. He's one of the starting tackles on this team. But the problem is, at the end of the day, with a guy like Mekhi Becton, he's running out of time before we get to the season. And then once we get to the season, are you going to be starting to jockey for who's going to be starting? I think you want to make that decision much earlier in the offseason.
No, 100%. You want to have some idea if you can go. Like, again, 7 plays is not close to a full game. So he's got to ramp up. I'm curious to see how much he plays this upcoming game against Carolina, and I think that'll give us a better indication of how far along he actually is.
Yeah, I saw Jets Central. Shout out to JC, another wonderful Jets content creator. He did it earlier today about the Mekhi Becton trade stuff. Mekhi kind of stoked the flames up with a non-answer answer to a question. He was asked if he's not starting by week 1, would he request a trade? And he says, well, I don't know, that's in the future. Like, he didn't just slam it down and say, no, come on, I'm here. I'm Mekhi Becton. This is great. So, again, he didn't say, I'm demanding a trade, but he did not say that, again, if we get to that situation, which, by the way, looks likely. If I had to guess right now on this moment, I would say he's probably not starting. And if he isn't, that opens the door for what we just talked about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he'd have to make up a lot of ground in just a couple of weeks here with ramping himself back up. So, I mean, we know Rodgers and both Nathaniel Hackett, both of them, they really like Billy Turner. So it wouldn't shock me at all if he got the nod. And Max Mitchell, he's been looking pretty good in camp. And he was, again, a starter at right tackle today in practice. So, maybe there's something there, but Mekhi's got a lot of ground to make up, I think.
Again, from a team perspective, Mekhi Becton, Madden roster on the team is great news for the Jets because you want the depth. But the problem is, we saw what happened last year, an Elijah Moore situation, a Denzel Mims situation. You don't want players requesting trades in the middle. I thought, all things considered, Saleh did a pretty good job because, again, they started off 6-3 to the season despite some of these things happening in the middle of it. But at the end of the day, you don't want some of that potential drama to creep in, especially with the spotlight that's so intense on this team.
No, 100%. Like, this is a year where you're going for it, right? I don't want any off-the-field distractions. Unfortunately, you had that with Elijah Moore last year, and that put a damper on a little bit of a nice winning streak, but yeah, you don't want that this season. You're 100% right.
All right, so we're, again, recording this live here on a Saturday. Only a few more minutes left here in the show. Next week, we have One Jets Drive on Monday. Wink, I see what you did, Jets people. And then Tuesdays, we have Hard Knocks. What are you looking forward to? There's so many juicy storylines. There's so many players we're all rooting for. Is there something that stands out to you in some way?
I just can't wait to see the behind the scenes look of how Aaron Rodgers interacts with the team. Oh, yeah, and that's a very chalk answer because everyone's excited about him coming in. But I really want to see the behind the scenes of how they're interacting in practices and meetings and stuff like that. I don't really care about the made up drama of there's a fight at camp today and they're pushing guys around. I don't really care about that. But I want to see how they're interacting and how they're driving early on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I have to tell this because then I want to launch into a question question. Me and Michael Clemens have had this weird thing on Twitter. We randomly, around the draft, I was rooting for him, and, we got the story, and, all that jazz was happening. That was fun. And then he followed me, and we DM'd a little bit on Twitter. I'm like, okay, so me and Michael Clemens, we're kind of cool. And then I've never obviously met the guy, never had a chance. At the locker room after the game, we're running through the pressers. They feed you Salah, Zach Wilson, Mekhi Becton after the game. I'm like, you know what? YOLO, we're in Canton, Ohio, for Pete's sake. Let's kind of dabble on over to the locker room and see. I see Michael Clemens. I'm like, you know what? What do we have to lose? What is he going to do? Punch me in the face? Probably. Possible. He could have, I guess. He did not. Yeah. Spoiler alert. He did not. But I came right up to him, asked him for a couple of questions, and, man, he was such a cool dude. And he said, in his voice, I can't impersonate it, but he was just like, it's official. Like, because he recognized each other, but now that we met in person, like, it's a spiritual bond of some kind. So it's like, okay, Michael, we are connected, brother. We are in. So I twisted you. He's a guy I'm rooting for on the team that isn't this obvious first-round pick. He's not one of those kind of guys, but obviously we've become kind of infatuated with his personality and uniqueness in a lot of ways. So I'll be rooting for him. Flipping that long-ass story back over to you here, Matt. Who's a player that you're rooting for? He's on the Matt O'Leary team. Again, he doesn't have to be this obvious name. He can be, of course, if you wanted to. But who is someone you're rooting for?
So the bias is going to show. Long Island kid Jeremy Rucker. How could you not want to root for this guy? But he's had a good camp. I mean, CJ Uzama wasn't active until recently, so he's been pretty much the tight end too for a lot of it the offseason. He didn't play in this game, but I think what he showed at the end of the year as even just a blocker, I think he's too useful not to have on the field, even if it's just in more of that H-back blocking role.
And to your point, if you're not playing in the Hall of Fame game, that's a statement. He did not play. It's like, again, Tony Adams didn't play. Oh, okay. Again, because he said, Salah, starters aren't playing and select veterans. Last time I checked, Tony Adams not a select veteran. He's in year 2. So it's almost like revealing your cards cat out of the bag is a term that Robert Saleh used in the past. So for Rucker, who appears on paper to be tight end 3, to not play him, I think it speaks to your point about how well he's played, and also that there must be a role. I'll turn it to you. Where is that role? He's a great story to root for. You got CJ Uzama. You got Tyler Conklin. You got the weird Zach Kuntz kid. Like, where does he fit into the mix? How can he have this impact on the team in your mind?
Yeah, both Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett, they both like to utilize the tight end, and Hackett loves to use a fullback. So I'm wondering, I think Bawden has a good chance to make this roster, but if they don't want to carry Bawden, then I think you could add Rucker in the mix and have him come out of the backfield a little bit too. So I think he just gets on the field because he's too talented not to at some point.
Yeah, again, there is Matt O'Leary. There's Boy Green. Let's bring him on. We got the legend, Jake Aswell. Yeah, come sandwich between us here, Jake. Jake, how has this been for you, man? This is not your first time to the Hall of Fame. It's certainly mine. How has this been like? We've had the party at Jersey's. We've had the Hall of Fame. We've had the Hall of Fame game. We've had all of us, all now in person, all at the same time right here. How has that been for you, man?
Oh, it's been amazing, guys. I mean, the first time I was here, I just happened to be in town because, ironically, I had a wedding in Canton, Ohio, of all places. So spent a little time at the Hall, but that was a random weekend in October. Here we are. It's Jets Fest. You got 2 of the greats going in. Fan base is pumped. You have the Hall of Fame game because that's the other element of this too, right? Like, the one thing if just Revis and Klecko were going in, and that would be big, and a bunch of fans would show up. But because they played in the Hall of Fame game, everyone got in on Thursday to watch that, and then stuck around for Friday and Saturday. So you really turn it into a whole weekend rather than just maybe a Friday, Saturday type of thing. So it's been awesome, man, and it's been so cool to experience it with you guys.
Well, I love the polo choice because you can flex a lot, and I want to flex a little bit more here for some of these guests. Woody Johnson, Jake Asman show. What else do you have in store? It's this offseason, Klecko, Revis. I mean, you're having all these superstars on the show. I mean, it's incredible, man.
Well, Woody said he would come on.
I'm putting the pressure. That's what I'm attempting to do at this moment.
I'm doing the same thing. Woody said he knew who I was. He said he watches the Quote podcast. He's like, you do a great job. And then I said to him, you got to come on. He's like, done. And I'm like, should I reach out to him? And I said, the Jets PR guy. And he's like, yep. And he'll set it up. So I said, all right, I'm going to make that happen. So I'm going to put the pressure on you, Woody. You said you'd come on. Let's make it happen. Let's reach the fans directly ahead of what's going to be maybe the most epic season in Jets history.
Now, I almost don't want to do this because I don't want to, scare off Woody. He's like this little deer out in the open. But is there questions on top of your mind that you want answered by Mr. Woody Johnson?
Can we get the legacy jerseys as permanent jerseys?
Please do God's work there,
and
Jake.
Whatever we could do for the Jets to get their own stadium and leave the world's biggest air conditioning unit, I'm going to ask them about that. Those are the two that I immediately have, and then there's other things too. But I feel like those are the two most pressing fan things that an ownership level person would probably be asked about. It could have an impact on.
Again, my problem, Jake, is I'm imagining he's going to respond, I'm going to save that for my documentary. I think that may be coming for you, Jake. So the questions you have to ask, hopefully we get some answers from that standpoint. But same thing. So obviously we plugged the Jake Asman Show. Matt O'Leary, we're right here. We're live in a lot of different places right now. Please feel free to plug your Jets platforms, man.
Yeah, Matt O'Leary NY on YouTube and all social media platforms. We're doing daily Jets content, having a lot of fun, and like to keep it light and talk some Jet football.
All right, well, we have to finish it off, with the only thing that we know how. I don't know if Fireman Ed has said it. I'm trying to pull a Klecko and see if I could call him out, summon him like something, but a JETS chant to finish this off. Is that possible? Can we make that happen? We conjure this right now.
I think you have to take the role of Fireman
Okay,
Ed.
yeah, almost like the hat off, although balding maybe, but Jets, Jets. There you go, everybody. Awesome. Pat O'Leary, Jake Asman, everybody. We're able to join all together. It's amazing. Make sure you guys check out their channels and all the wonders and his wonderful dance moves. Again, after dark, Patreon. You may want to hit it up. I don't know what's in there, but dive into the deep end of the pool, get the scuba gear on, and see what you guys could have popping. Thank you guys so much for joining us here live from Canton, Ohio, and we'll be back with some more amazing content here soon. Thanks, everybody, and make sure you guys take care.